Village of Webster regular meeting, December 22nd. Trustee Bill Kane, I would appreciate if you lead us in the pledge this evening. Flag's over here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So first on the agenda tonight, we have the Executive Director of Webster Economic Development Alliance, Matt Chatfield, who will be giving us a review of this year and to enlighten people as to exactly what this association does for the town, the Village of Webster, the Chamber of Commerce, and the Webster School District. We're all members of this alliance. Thanks, Matt.
All right. Do these lights kick off, or is it in rows? I can't remember. Do those front ones kick off?
Yeah, they do. I think it's just, actually, it's just one side, I believe.
Is it just one? Is it
It's
just
like
one
one
half?
side, yeah. But I think you can get those done.
All right. Oh, that's perfect. Yeah, right in front of the screen. That's perfect. Thank
Are
you.
these microphones on? Okay.
Yours on, Jeff?
Just checking.
Well, good evening. Thank you for having me here. My name is Matt Chatfield. I am the Executive Director of the Webster Economic Development Alliance. And for those of you who may have been watching or have familiar with what we've been doing, we actually have a new organizational name. We were the Webster Community Coalition for Economic Development for about 5 years. And this year we changed our name, slightly revised it such that it was a little easier for people to remember and also was more in line with what we do. We are Webster's Local Development Corporation. It's a public-private partnership funded by the town of Webster, the Village of Webster, the school district, Chamber of Commerce, and the Business Improvement District. So we are the connector in the community. We try and assist businesses where possible, both by recruiting them into the community and by assisting them in their expansion and investment priorities. So just providing you a quick overview of what we did in 2015 and a preview of 2016 and the years to come. It was a very busy year. Fresh off the heels of a couple big wins from late December of last year, $111,000 in transportation improvement funding that we procured for the Village of Webster that will be spent on North Avenue. $87,000 for a NYSERDA, a feasibility study for a chilled water district. We're just entering contracts with NYSERDA as we speak on that. We were also just last week or 2 weeks ago awarded $118,000 for engineering and design services for the town of Webster to conduct design and engineering for Lakefront Park on the sandbar. And we did, unfortunately, we were unsuccessful in our application for Main Street funding this year. And we're also awaiting the award or the announcement of about $100,000 in application for community education stations throughout the community. And I'll touch on that a little bit later into my presentation. The highlight actually of our year was actually the smallest grant award that we received was $50,000 for community investment strategy, and that was part of the America's Best Communities Prize competition. We were chosen among 138 applicants, which included 400 communities across the country. We were one of 50 communities chosen as part of the top 50 in America by Frontier Communications. And that $50,000 went towards a community investment strategy. We got $35,000 from Frontier Communications, $15,000 was kicked in by the Xerox Foundation, and we raised almost $18,000 locally. All this money was developed to, was pooled together to create an investment strategy. How do we continue to make Webster a great place to live, invest, and raise a family? So that was the goal of the strategy. And we spent 5 or 6 months throughout the summer reaching out to the community and developing that concept with the community and its stakeholders at the table. Currently, we're submitted for the top 8. We submitted in early November, and we will find out in the next few weeks if we are at least invited to present in person in April. And in April, 8 communities will walk away from a presentation down in North Carolina with $100,000 that they can then spend on 1 or 2 investment strategies at which we will be judged on how well we implemented those strategies. And then the winners, the top 3, get to share $6 million that helped finish out the revitalization and community investment strategy, which we developed here. This is available online at Webster Together and I think all of the board members should have received their copy of it as well. So the America's Best Communities competition led to us, the Alliance, we created what's called the Webster Together campaign. It was basically our public face, the public persona of Webster as advised to be recognized as one of the best communities in America. And you may have come across this either on the internet, or maybe you saw a TV commercial or some of our print media campaigns. We basically canvassed the community as much as possible, and we reached out to the community to try and understand what are the priorities and values of the community. We reached out, we did youth engagement, we went into elementary schools and high schools and middle schools. We wanted to understand what are the priorities of the youth. The priorities of the youth were they want places to hang out that are safe and convenient and fun, and they also want opportunities to volunteer in the community as well. So we took that information, in addition to other information that we developed and collected from the community during numerous surveys. We did paper surveys, internet surveys, we did online polling, we went to every event throughout the community during the summertime. We actually even had a storefront, and we still do, on East Main Street, where someone could literally walk in and they could talk about what they want to see changed in the community. And we took all that information, and we understood from what was basically told to us by the community residents that village revitalization and waterfront investment were the two key priorities that they saw. So based on all the community feedback from 5 or 6 months of engagement, we came up with 6 priority areas. Those 6, as you see on the screen, one being village downtown revitalization, and I'm going to kind of go into the findings of that a little bit more today because I think it's most relevant to the board.
Yep.
So for village revitalization, the priority goal area statement is let's strengthen the village as the community's cultural and entertainment hub. So making the village the destination for arts, culture, and entertainment within the entire Webster community. So with that goal in mind, we developed, okay, what are some strategies? Working with the stakeholders in the community, business leaders, members of the board, as well as just regular members of the community and other stakeholders within Webster, improving the convenience and functionality and walkability within Webster, within the village, providing an appealing visitor experience, not just while walking down the street, but while visiting an actual business itself, so public and private investment on either side of the coin. Providing high quality and unique destinations, making sure that we are unique within the realm of what is Monroe County or the region that is the Finger Lakes, trying to find out what makes us unique and how do we compete against other communities for investment and visitor dollars. And making the village a vibrant place to live and work, because those are 2 key components to maintaining a healthy economy. So we have the goal and we have some strategies. So how do we go about achieving that? Well, we identified some key projects, and essentially this came out of a full-day community investment summit where we had 45 stakeholders came in. We held it at the Webster Recreation Center. It was a full-day summit. We actually brought in professional facilitators and economic development strategists from Alexandria, Virginia, and they helped facilitate this meeting on how do we identify and prioritize where we should invest money in the future. So as far as the village revitalization projects were considered, we targeted 4. Streetscape improvements, a catalyst project for development, industrial development, and these what we're calling the Community Environment and Education Network. I'm going to touch on each of these just briefly. So for village streetscape improvements, one of the things that was continuously heard through our dialogue with the community was the perception of available parking. Many people feel there's just not enough parking in the village. The numbers actually say the opposite, but the perception can become reality. So obviously, how do we go about improving the perception of parking, signage, wayfinding systems, physical connections between parking spaces in the business district? Functional, clean, and appealing amenities. It was often mentioned that people were desiring a physical environment that the village currently isn't providing. They were constantly comparing the village to other communities that they really like to go to. So obviously, sprucing up those amenities and providing that physical experience and that physical environment is going to be key moving forward. Pedestrian and bicycle friendliness, yet again, another key area for investment. So the second area of investment was targeted as a village catalyst project. So catalyst meaning if we create a destination element in the community, a place where people are going to come in from outside and they're going to either spend time there or use it as an event space or a gathering space. There's going to be other investments that are going to take place around that because people are going to try and capitalize on that. There's going to be a business that might pop up and say, wow, this is generating a lot of traffic over here, and because of that, we're going to open our doors. So the goal is create a catalytic project. That very much dovetails with the community's desire to have a central gathering space, a year-round gathering space within the community for events, meetings, concerts, arts and cultural activities, fitting in with the village as the hub for arts, culture, and entertainment. And then, in addition, it was thought that we can do all this while trying to capitalize on some of our historic assets. So how do we put all those pieces together? We're still obviously entering that dialogue. But one opportunity could be potentially the future of the Harmony House or any other historic structure. That's just an example. So that's a continuing dialogue that the Alliance would love to have with both village leadership as well as community stakeholders. Industrial development. Webster, the village of Webster, has a significant industrial footprint. The majority of the Xerox plant and campus is in the village of Webster. There is one significant site of the 3 that we have in the community. One of the 3 significant industrial sites that's remaining is in the village of Webster and the West Campus, which is west of Phillips Road and north of Orchard Street. It's about 65 acres right there. In addition, we've also been, through our previous activities, we've been targeting a naturally chilled water district to pull cold water out of Lake Ontario and use that to spur industrial development. And one of those key sectors is the food and beverage manufacturing industry. So moving forward, that's going to be a key priority area of the Economic Development Alliance and to figuring out how we can leverage that for investment and employment growth. And then Community Environment and Education Network. Throughout the summer, throughout the 5 months that we spent talking with the community, having people come in, having multiple meetings, everybody loves our open space system and our parks and recreation system and our network of open spaces. And when you actually look at it, the standards say a community should have anywhere from 12 to 25 acres of open space and parks reserve land for every 1,000 people. Well, the Webster community as a whole has 75, so we have triple. So the goal is, okay, this is a wonderful asset in our community, yet how do we leverage that from an economic perspective, right? I mean, quality of life is great, and quality of life does equal economics in the end, but how can we further leverage that? And the idea that came to pass was the development of a network of connected spaces that build upon our high-quality education system. So the goal is to create a network largely built upon the spine of the Hojack Trail as a network of education and cultural stations within the community. They can both be an attractive element for other school districts or senior enrichment opportunities or even our own school district to bring people into the community as well as provide opportunities to tell the story about the history of Webster. So one of those things that we're actually considering is in the village of Webster, we're thinking that there's a node opportunity here on the eastern end of that system along the Hojack Trail. And one of the concepts that we're kicking around is the Hojack History Center concept, which basically one opportunity is let's redevelop or adaptively reuse the former Hojack baggage depot and reconstruct that as part of a outdoor education and cultural education station. So it would be an interpretive, not just a museum, but just an education station for the community. So it would be interactive. It wouldn't be little children or visitors would walk in and just look. They would walk in, they would interact, they would touch, they would move, they would operate, and learn about the history of Webster. And in addition to that, the goal is how do we bring that rail history into the community? So the idea of a rail park, reactivating some rail cars and using them in some really creative ways to make something unique that is a destination that makes Webster stand apart. So those are like the 4 key concepts that came out of the ABC, what we call the ABC, America's Best Communities competition. And the next steps are to identify champions for each project. The Alliance cannot do everything by itself. The Alliance is a connector. The Alliance does not have the resources, either financially or personnel-wise, to do everything all at once. So we're going to be looking to identify champions for each of these projects within the community. We're going to look to identify those champions and other stakeholders and just continue that dialogue. How do we move things forward? Who wants to get involved? Who wants to take the lead on it? And then begin to identify some funding mechanisms. So, and with that, I'll open the floor to any questions that you guys may have.
Well, personally, I want to thank Matt and the Alliance, especially Matt, for all the work that you've done this past year. Obviously, the village has benefited a great deal, given the $811,000 grant that you procured for the village. I had an opportunity to attend the outbreak sessions, and it was a lot of very creative and well thought out ideas were brought by those in attendance, and I appreciate you facilitating that, and we really are off to a good start, and again, I really greatly appreciate everything you've done. I appreciate you coming in here and educating the board as to what this alliance is about, and it's a unity of Webster. All right, the school district, the town, the village, the business improvement district, and the Chamber of Commerce. We meet like once a month, and this is one of the things that comes out of that. Okay, the town is benefited, the village is benefiting, and Webster as a community is benefiting. So this alliance is unique. I don't know that there's an alliance where in any other municipality where you can get in one room without blood flowing, the town, the village, the school district, and the Chamber of Commerce, because everybody has to usually wants to go in their own direction, but when you can get the entities together and accomplish under your stewardship what we've accomplished this year, it really says a lot about Webster, and I greatly appreciate your efforts this past year and your efforts going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a great opportunity. Al, Jerry, Jude, any questions?
We're glad we have you, Matt.
That's good. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, all right. Well, if any questions, did you want to open it up to
Yeah,
questions?
if anybody has
from the
any
public?
questions for Matt?
All right.
All right,
Thank
thank you
you
so
very
much for
much.
your presentation this evening, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, good evening. So before I open up the public portion of the meeting, I just want to remind everyone that, we have 5 minutes to speak. You can speak once per meeting. I'm going to do my best to hold everyone to the 5 minutes, so I'll apologize in advance if I have to interrupt anyone to let them know that the time limit is up. I would ask that you please give us your name and your address. So at this time, I'll open up the public portion of the meeting for anyone who would like to address the village board at this time.
I'm Michael Kahn. I live at 610 Webster Road. That's right across the street from the village sewage treatment plant. This is my third appearance at the town or the village board meetings. There's been a lot of communications between us throughout the last couple months. Let me just start from the beginning again. My wife and I have been there 33 years, long before the village has been doing their composting. Composting has really caused, as Matt would say, quality of life issue. I hate to say it, but the village and the town and this area around that plant is nothing but a mess. The people that live in that area, they can't enjoy life. I can't go outside the house. I can't put the Christmas lights up or cut the grass because the smell is more than just an annoying smell. The farmer down the street spreading manure, that's annoying. This is sickening. The kids that come, my grandkids that come over to my house, they won't come over to the house. I got doctor orders from all of them to stay away. all the neighbors that live around me have the same problem. This sewage treatment plant takes everything they can. They take the residence sewage, they take Xerox sewage, they take the Xerox industrial waste, they take they don't take it? You shaking your
The
head?
town does.
The
And that flows
village,
through the village
the
sewage
village
treatment plant
sewage
first.
treatment plant takes everything from Xerox. They also take all the discharge from the hazardous waste dump that's to the south of their property. They take septic haulers. They take campers, they take anything, right? And then they process this waste, and what's left over, they mix it with the leaves out front, and they call that composting. Van Laer takes their septic sludge, which is left over from their treatment, they put it in sealed trucks, and they send it to a landfill. They don't compost over there in Arundecoit, but they do here. Why would they do something like that in a residential area? We've been over this for years. This year is so unbelievable that the neighbors just can't take it anymore. So what do you do with this? Human sewage composting, the treated sewage composting. You tell me you give it away. So who do you give it to? You give it to the village? Do you put it over there at the Memorial Park? Do you spread it up and down around the trees, up and down on Main Street in the village? Is it out here in front of the firehouse? We've talked to 300 people or so on our petitions, and there's no one, with the exception of a couple of employees that work for the village or the town and a police officer, that is not disgusted by this. Everybody signs the petition. Everybody can't believe that this is really happening. And here we are again, months after it started, months after I came up here, months after all these people gave up their time to come up here, and we're still talking about it. We were at DEC this morning going through some paperwork. In big red letters it says, keep children away from this product. And yet, we still mix 170 tons of it across the street from my house and right by everybody else's house. And then you take that product and you spread it all over the village. It's mind-boggling. You take that compost, you blow air through it. This is leaves with treated sewage. You shake your head like I'm not talking the truth.
Go
I wish,
ahead,
yeah,
just
it's
let
your-
him finish, please.
I know.
Have you ever been down to the plant to see?
Yes.
Okay, well, what do you think of that? Is that a nice operation they got there? 170 tons of leaves?
It's been there for, what, 80 years, 60 years?
Not the
it-
composting, ma'am. The composting has been there, and not to the scale and the disgust that it is now. Those piles of leaves are so big that the tarps don't even cover them.
Well, we can get bigger tarps.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, oh, they don't cover it. Well,
right.
One year they said that they're gonna cover them. One year they said they're gonna put deodorizers in them. One year you said that you're only gonna turn the piles when the wind is in my favor. John Cale's remedy this year was we're gonna plant some arborvitaes, or maybe we'll put up a fence.
not-
I mean, this is all, it's gotta go. There's no way anybody in this community, except a handful of people, think this is a good idea. And why do you make these people keep coming back here and begging to get rid of this? Would you put that composting in your front yard?
I wouldn't have moved there.
Mr.
I've lived there
I
long
know.
before the composting.
All right, Mr. Khan,
And my house was there before the plant was even there.
Mr. Khan, I apologize, as I did in
I know.
advance, but your 5 minutes is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khan.
My name is Kansas McDonald. I live at 467 Holt Road.
Good
I
evening,
have-
Miss Kansas,
McDonald, yes.
McDonald, sorry.
It's okay. I have spent 6 hours researching municipalities given to me by DEC that does human sewage composting, and I can tell you that they are nothing like Webster. Let's talk about the Village of Webster composting. There are 1,400 homes, not people, 1,400 homes in a 1-mile radius. This plant holds no speedies permit, which nothing is tested. There's no people inspecting it, no pop quizzes, nobody just showing up to randomly take air samples or testing things. They don't hold a speedies permit. What the town of Webster does, they get the whole effluent flow. Let's talk about these other places. These other places are state of the art, and they have to be because they all hold speedies permits. Let's talk about the people that were things. I want to know, personally, I didn't hear of these places until I actually looked it up. Rensselaer County Sewer District, it's the whole county of Rensselaer. It's in the city of Rensselaer. Madison County Sewer District, it's in the town of Casanova. Tri-Municipal Wastewater Treatment Facility, it's in Hilburn in Rockland County. Town of Yorkton Heights in Madison County, Village of Portville in Cattaraugus County, Village of Endicott in Broome County, and the Village of Mount Morris. These are all people that do human sewage composting that were given to me by DEC as a, look at this, so does everybody else. Let's talk about some of these places. Not one of these places has more than 300 homes in a 1 mile radius. You're looking at 1,400. Most of these, 6 of 8 of these, have 50 houses in a 1 mile radius. 2 of these have 1 house in a half a mile radius. We are talking about huge areas. They own 80 acres, they have miles and miles. Some of these places have nobody to the east and the north of these places because they know that that's where predominantly the wind blows. And they'll put it in a place where it doesn't bother people. FOIL request. I'd like to bring to the board's attention my request for a FOIL. I had a Freedom of Information Act that was submitted to the Webster Village, certified. I presented it myself and had Josette sign for it on the 12th of November, which still has not been fulfilled. This has been over 40 days now. All we got was a letter that said we're going to charge you 25 cents a copy. I responded, again, I went in and said, yes, we will pay whatever fees that you feel that you need to charge us, and it still has not been fulfilled. We were told that it would be done.
Let me interrupt you for a
Sure.
second.
That's the FOIL that Jake and John Carnival were working on, getting all the copy numbers together.
Okay, but it's incumbent upon the village, and the FOIL law pretty much is pretty specific that states if you cannot fulfill it within the 5 days, you have to, just let me finish, please.
I responded
You-
within the 5
Let me-
days, and now we have until,
Did you send a letter to
Yes, I
Ms.
did.
McDonald
Yes, I
notifying
did.
her that we would fulfill her FOIL request by such and such a date?
yes, I
No.
did.
Did you receive
She
that?
did not submit a letter that said she would fulfill it by a date. She sent a letter that said it would cost 25 cents a copy. It was not a, please respond and let us know if it was acceptable. It was a statement letter. It wasn't until I talked to DEC that they told me that I physically had to respond to that letter. So 2 weeks ago, I went in with another letter that says, yes, we accept these charges, and that is the last place it was. There
Okay.
was no question on the letter. I did not know that I had to respond. There was no information in that aspect. What was on the FOIL report? We're asking for payroll. How many employees, how many hours, how much overtime, what is going into this facility? We want to know the financial aspects, the assets, the machinery, the aerators, the loaders. What is it that's going on over there, and how much is it costing your village for money every year? We want to know how many leachate trucks are coming in, how many septic haulers, how many campers, how many trailers, and how many other people are you soliciting to in order to get $1 from anybody that can bring in their sewage? How much, how many times a year? We want to know how much money is being spent in lab reports. Per DEC's record, in '92, you were paying $25,000 a year in lab reports. That was in '92. I have no more figures based on what that letter was. I can only assume that it's more money than that. I wish the village of Webster, both the town and the village, luck. We have this nice gentleman up here talking about being coherent, working together, and here we are taking human-treated sewage, dumping it in your parks and on your streets, around your trees. People drive their strollers through it. You ask that people come up here and do a Halloween walk through your village, and here they are trampling through this disgusting stuff. You even ask people to come up and watch movies, home family movies in your park. Again, you're inviting children into the area where compost is not supposed to be around children. I wish that everything was as hunky-dory as you said, John. From what we hear, nobody can seem to kind of get on the same page. Everybody is appalled by this, and we're still talking.
Good, John, how are you?
Good.
Of course, I live at 610 Webster Road, right across the street from this Webster sewage treatment plant. I've been there for 33 years. My foundation and my farmhouse was put in 1850. 33 years I've lived in this house. There was no composting when we moved there. I could look across the road, it was all bare. It took 30 years to get these pine trees to fully grow and protected, not to see your plant, and it protected the smell. The smell is unbelievable, even tonight to come here. Really, I cannot believe that this has ruined my life. This is ruining my life. I came here since November the 6th, since they sprayed chemicals on there and almost killed me and my family. I called John over to the plant at 3 o'clock when I got home. I said, John, what did you spray tonight? I said, this is terrible. It's killing us. He goes, he starts telling me about how he's going to be rolling. He's going to be done next week, he tells me. Then I said, okay, I was understanding. And at the very end, he says to me, I don't tell you how to take care of your property. My God, you go by my house. I hear from my neighbors all the time. 33 years I lived in my house. My kids were in marching band for 9 years. I was proud of this community. I'm in your village all the time. My bank's in your village. I come up to Mark's Pizzeria. We support your village. We are all one people. And look how this is such disgusting behavior. I have to smell it. My grandchildren can't even come over to my house. I understand. I have 4 daughters. I understand that my kids, my grandsons are sick. Logan had 30 needles put in his back the other day. This kid is living on a breathing machine. He can't even, of course he can't come to my house. I mean, all I want this to do is to go away. I moved to this house. I love this community. I've raised 4 daughters. I have 10 grandchildren in all the Webster schools. What more could I ask for such a great life? I know I moved to the town of Webster. I wanted acreage. I have 5 acres where I am. There's houses that went up around me. I got 150 houses behind me. I love people. Everybody's my friend. I mean, we're people. And this really is not fair to me and my family and my community around me. I hear from people, I have talked to people for weeks. They say, how do you live there? You're right, it's really embarrassing. How do I live there? How do I put up with the smell? I keep locking my truck up in the garage. My doctor said, get out of that house, give it up. How do I give? Yes, I should. If this doesn't go away, and you know, John, your board's got to do something. You really have to take this away. You know, I don't think it's fair to me. I work really hard. My husband works really hard. Our taxes are $8,300 to live in this house. I know that everybody has to pay property taxes, but it's worth it. I always felt it was worth my money to give my family a great life in Webster. And look at all this crap is dumped on me and my breathing, my respiratory problem, my grandchildren's breathing. On November, when I called John at the plant and they sprayed, my grandchildren came at 5 o'clock, they were screaming. I went out to see them, they're screaming, Grandma, what's that smell? It was like the movie of the birds were attacking them. Madeline is throwing, gagging, she's gagging in the driveway. This is not good life. So I just hope you take into consideration to please get rid of this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Richard Fraser. I live at 592 Webster Road. I'm glad to see you're here, Bob, too, because this pertains to you. I have a copy, John, of the agreement, intermunicipal agreements between the town and the village. I'm not gonna read the whole thing,
Okay.
but there are a few things I want to address here. It says the village at no expense will allow town personnel to accompany village personnel in the inspections. And when I talked to you about that, you didn't know anything about that. It also says representatives from both the town and village will meet with industry on quarterly basis. Has this been done?
We'll meet with who, sir?
It says representatives from the town and the village will meet with industry on a quarterly basis. Now, this was signed, okay, in 2009 by Jack Swingley, the mayor, on May 14th, and Ronald Nesbitt. And it also states in here that this has to be signed every 2 years. It has not been done, okay? This is from the town of Webster. This is proof, and I have proof here.
Sure.
That 2009, May 14th was the last time this was looked at. Okay, and I gotta address Ron Nesbitt on this too. You're the town supervisor. Your signature is on here, okay? Mr. Cahill.
Yeah, this meeting is to address the village
Have
board.
have you and the town and the village met on a quarterly basis with this, according to this agreement that I have signed here?
I have not seen that specific agreement. I know that last year we signed a renewed intermunicipal agreement between the town and the village. I haven't seen the language in that one, so I can't,
Well, we don't
I
have
can't
Jake
answer
here
to that.
either.
So, yeah, but I would be the one that would sign it, and I would have read it. And I know we did sign a new intermunicipal agreement this past summer.
Have representatives from the town and village met on
At
a
the
quarterly
plant?
basis? Have you done that?
No, I have not met with the,
Have town inspectors been in there to inspect that?
that I do not know. They may
Okay.
very well have been in there, but I don't know.
Okay.
John, do you have any idea? Or is Jake responsible, and he's not here?
Do you have,
If you can get me a copy of that,
Yeah.
okay,
I'll absolutely look into that. And
Okay.
And I'll compare
should
that
have that.
intermunicipal agreement with our current intermunicipal
Okay.
agreement, because I know some of the language did change in that. But I'll
okay.
absolutely.
Because the last time this was signed was May 14th,
Right, in
by John
2009,
Swingley.
right?
and in 2009.
Right.
Okay, and it's supposed to be signed every 2 years.
Well, I know we did just sign one this past
Did you?
summer. Yes, we did.
Okay.
And I don't know if the same language is in the one we just signed, is in the language that you just signed.
And the town personnel, you don't know if they've accompanied the village personnel in to do inspections? You don't know
I
that?
do not know that, no, I
We
do
wouldn't
not.
know.
Okay, because it is agreement that they are to do that. Okay, thank you. I'd like to see, but I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Sure, I appreciate
Last time
that.
it
If you
was
can give me a
signed.
copy of that, I'll
Yeah.
most certainly be glad to look into that.
Okay.
Well, sure.
And I'll compare it with our current intermunicipal agreement.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Pat McDonald, 467 Holt Road in Webster. You know, as I've said before, you know, my wife and I, we've grown up in this town. My kids are the third generation from my family to grow up in the town of Webster. We always grew up visioning the village as part of our town. I mean, we basically encompassed the entire village. It wasn't until we started coming to these board meetings that it started getting thrown in our face that the village is the village and the town is the town. You know, I need to point out that the village brought it upon themselves to purchase a property on Route 250 to do whatever dealings they wanted to do on. I mean, it's privately owned by the village, just as I would buy my lot and build a house on it. But every single home that directly surrounds this plant that you guys built there was there long before you guys purchased the property, long before the plant was built, definitely long before the composting began. And there's been complaints about the composting since day one. I mean, the village has already lost one lawsuit because of contamination and because they were offending their neighbors on the other side of the creek directly to the west. And in response to that, you guys didn't do away with it. You guys actually just moved it on the other side of your property and put it in a location that's not built and suited for what you're doing with it, causing problems for even more people than it was causing before. So, I mean, when you look at the definition of negligence, you guys are staring it in the face. You know, Rich was up here talking about the intermunicipal agreement. I know you guys say you signed a new one this summer. Whether or not it has to pertain to this, my wife and I actually pulled the FOIL request from the town itself. This is what was provided to us, so if there was a new one, for some reason that was not included in the information that we were handed. So I know there's many different intermunicipal agreements to many different topics. Whether or not we're talking about the same one being renewed or not, could be, could not be, who knows,
I don't
until
know.
you look at the paperwork. One thing I would like to let you guys know is that, we've tried for a long time to keep this civil. We've tried for a long time to make sure that, originally all we wanted was for the pile to go away, and we would have been happy with that initially. The deeper we dug into this, we have a lot of different concerns. As we've stated before, and some people don't agree with us and keep rolling their eyes while we talk, this actually does bring a lot of this Xerox federal regulated waste to your plant. And you have a plant that's over $2 million in disrepair. You think it's properly geared to handle the material that you're soliciting to bring into the plant? Not to mention, when you do process this to whatever extent you're capable, now that's being put on this leaf pile for us to ingest. So you're talking about the same material that killed how many people and gave so many people cancer up in the Schlegel Road area from the same material. Now you're inviting it so you can put it back into the environment. It's supposed to be contained and handled properly, which I seriously doubt with a plant that's in that much disrepair is actually being done. So that's a big concern. Now it's not just a matter of the pile being removed. This is a matter of everybody's health and what you guys have done to them. There seems to be a pretty great concentration in this immediate area of people with sicknesses that are directly related as side effects to these materials. So, time will tell, but we've given you several opportunities, and I would like you to know that on the 28th, we will have a meeting with the attorneys that we're going to be represented by. Open to the public. If you guys want to attend, as far as I'm concerned, you're still part of the town of Webster, whether you live in the village or not. This is going to affect us all. It's been in the news, it's been in the paper, it's been in the local papers. So this is going to be at 6 p.m. Holiday Inn Express, Holt Road. We're going to meet directly with the attorneys from Faraci and Lang. They're there to represent all the neighbors that have concern here tonight, everybody that actually has real estate concerns in the area. Quite frankly, nobody around there is going to sell a property with what you guys have done to the area.
What time did you say that was?
6 p.m. on the 28th. So we actually have the conference room. They will be there to address any concerns and basically lay down the guidelines for how they intend to proceed. So, I wish for your guys' sake that it was still as simple as just saying, hey, let's remove the pile and let's call it even, but you're beyond that point. This plant has been so poorly mismanaged for so many years, with so few people complaining because they didn't realize what they were smelling and ingesting, that, had you had somebody proper in place managing the plant, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation right now, and you guys wouldn't be looking at a severe lawsuit. But the reality of it is you are. So, thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald.
Evening, my name is Christopher Ball, 172 Bell Vista Drive, Penfield. I got up and spoke and shared with you some information about my son Logan. It's one of 3 children I have, 7, 5, and 1 year. In regards to the situation at the plant and some spikes it's causing with his asthma, I'd like to read from you a letter that I received from his pediatrician, which I'll give you each a copy of when I'm done here. Logan Ball is an established 7-year-old patient in my practice. I'm writing to confirm that he's been diagnosed with asthma, cough, and respiratory difficulties that have been reported to worsen when he's playing at his grandparents' home in Webster. I understand that there have been concerns raised due to environmental exposures in the area related to a processing plant across the street. There's no other known environmental exposure in his life, including tobacco smoke or other influences in his home. Logan's referred to a pediatric allergist who has confirmed diagnosis of asthma, with environmental allergies, including mold. An allergist has recommended further blood work testing for mold and environmental exposures. He's currently requiring daily medication with inhaled steroids and periodic use of bronchodilators to manage his symptoms. He has not experienced asthma previously in his 7 years. For the time being, pediatrician is requesting that we limit his exposure to his grandparents' house directly across the street from the composting due to the observed inflammation of his symptoms that have routinely occurred on his visiting. Notably on November 6th, 7th, and 8th is when the last flare was perceived. It hasn't recurred since then because we haven't been back to his grandparents' house since then.
What were
So
the dates again, I'm sorry?
November 6th, 7th, and 8th.
Thank you.
Signed, Laura Jean Shipley, medical doctor, Panorama Pediatrics. So while this composting continues, we will refrain from visiting Logan's grandparents. That means that his grandparents will be coming to another home, another town. We'll be spending money in another town, patronizing Penfield, Fairport, etc., instead of continuing to patronize businesses in Webster and the village of Webster, in which we've done for the 15 years that I've known the Cons.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Eric Reynolds, 64 Kircher Park. I see on the agenda you want to take a resolution to discontinue composting at the STP. What would the cost, what is the cost that will be added to the village for the transportation of sludge to the landfill? Certainly, this is very easy cost analysis. You must have records of how much sludge has been produced in the last 5 years, and you certainly could obtain the cost of the transfer to transfer that to the landfill. There will of course be transportation costs if the village transports that sludge to the landfill, and also a reduction of costs for the equipment and labor spent maintaining the compost pile. Has any cost analysis been done? If that has not been done, then this matter should be tabled until that information is compiled and available. I again will remind you of your fiduciary responsibility to the village taxpayers. Incurring this cost without considering the impact on the village is irresponsible and a breach of your fiduciary responsibility and in violation of your oath of office. Certainly, this matter can wait until information is obtained and full board is present to discuss this matter. I will repeat my earlier statement, this matter should be tabled. Does this mean that no leaf composting will take place? If not, what are we going to do with the leaves? Will that also involve additional costs to the village? What will happen to the current pile that is at STP? Colder weather will undoubtedly arrive in the next couple of weeks and the smell will diminish greatly. That will give you time to investigate these matters and move forward with a proper plan rather than a knee-jerk reaction that seems to be happening right now. We talked about doing air tests out there. Have they been done? Has that been scheduled? I mean, it seems that we're starting to put the cart before the horse based on, feelings and, anecdotes. There is no tried and true test that has been done. So I think that the resolution should undoubtedly be tabled until some investigation has been taken. Thank you.
Well, all I'm going to say is that I adamantly disagree with you, Mr. Reynolds, and I think there is probably 30 to 40 people in this room that I don't think are making stories up. As a matter of fact, I'll have a statement I'll read when everyone's done, but I have taken the time to do research on biosolid composting. I've also taken the time to go to these people's homes and to sit with them and speak with them. So I don't live across the street from the sewage treatment plant, sir. I don't have to endure that smell. They do, okay? And I have a statement prepared, and I'll be reading that shortly.
I have to interject.
Go ahead.
that They are not
Go
paying
ahead.
our taxes, and they're not paying your wages.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Don't have a back and forth
All right, we're done. Who's next? Anybody?
My name is Gail Wagner. I live on Wall Road.
Hi, Gail. How are you this evening?
Good, thanks. And I just have to speak up for a second here. I was a runner for years, and when I would run around that corner, I'd always go like this, because that smell always was a little off. You know, it wasn't a natural smell, and you know, you just hear of things in the environment and cancer and everything. I have a golden retriever and a puggle, and they're not the smartest dogs in the world. But let me tell you today, in the past few months, they won't go past Mrs. Bernard's house on Wall Road, which is on the other side of the creek, before you even get there. The smell down there has gotten worse. I'm not making this up. This is fact. And I'm sorry, I'm just an art teacher. I teach at St. Rita's, and I don't know the town and the village, but $8,000 in taxes, $6,000 in taxes. We're looking at selling our house. This smell down there is not going to help our area. And I see in Webster these retirement homes going up, all this building. And I know you're the village and it's the town. But, the plaza went up, and I love the deer, even though they eat all my plants. I love the deer, and I hated to see the plaza go up. Now you have the plaza, the town, someone's getting taxes from that. You're putting up retirement homes where all our green space was. You're getting taxes, someone's getting taxes from that. We're not getting nothing from that, us little people. Our taxes go up, up, up. It becomes more and more like Henrietta and Greece. We have Wendy's, we have Dairy Queen, we have Burger King, we have everything now. Do we need it? Do we need it? Webster, where life is worth living, was a wonderful place when we moved in 30 years ago. The green space is what brought us all there, right? Sure. Now we've got this big dilemma at the end of my street. It used to be a water treatment plant. Now it's become a sewage treatment plant.
It's always been a sewage treatment plant.
It's always been a
Yeah.
sewage treatment.
Yeah.
The sign used to say water treatment plant.
There's no sign up there no more.
We're just asking you, we went to the town board meeting last week, and he said there was nothing they could do. There's nothing we can do. They listened to us. Then he came out and said, we'll test the water in the creek. Okay? So we're waiting to hear what that comes. This man said, are you testing the air quality? What's the DEC doing? I think the people of Webster need to know the facts on this. We're not coming in here and just pleading, crying to you. We want the facts as much as the village people do. We pay taxes just as much as you do. We are all one place. This is Webster. I don't understand the village and the town. Like I said, just a little art teacher from St. Rita's, okay? But, Webster, where life is worth living, should be that.
Gail?
All we're asking.
Thank you very
Gail,
much.
can you give me an idea of about when the smell got worse?
Well,
It's
in the
kind-
past year, but I was a runner for 20 years,
Well,
from the the 90s to 2010. And there was always a smell there, but
Yeah,
it's
expect-
gotten worse in the past year.
In its past year? Okay.
Like I said, the dogs don't even want to go down there. And when we do, I'm like, all right, guys, hurry up, let's move, let's go home. So,
I'm just trying to figure out what
Thank you very
went
much.
wrong.
I had a couple questions here. One thing, in response to the first gentleman that spoke, yes, I have village compost in my front yard. I have village compost in my side yard. I have village compost, which is my garden. When I put in my raised garden, it was 100% made up of village compost. So that's my answer on that. Unlike one of the speakers last week or 2 weeks ago, I do not feel that I'm being tired because I moved to Webster. I'm tired because I'm old. And as the gray-haired gentleman last week said, it was when he moved to Webster, maybe he should look at the other correlations too. Eric already asked one of my questions, has there been testing? Which there has not. The only speaker tonight has a letter from his doctor that says to keep the kids away because there might be a correlation, basically is what it says. It does not say this is the cause, it says it could be the cause. Well, if it is, we should do away with it. But 2 weeks ago, what I saw here was, from the audience, was mass hysteria. Anybody that's got any kind of a problem, we found something to blame it on. I admit it does smell. That's what sewage does. Most of the houses down there we talked about here tonight, about how many houses there are down there. Another gentleman got up and said all these houses were there before the sewer plant. Well, the sewer plant was there long before most of those houses. There are some in the area that were farmhouses that were there before the village put in the first sewers in the town of Webster, long before the town even thought about sewers. Another gentleman tonight has spoken about the $2 million in needed repairs to the plant. Well, if you looked into that thoroughly, the $2 million number that came up consisted of many updates, not needed repairs, but updates and energy conservation things that could be done, like LED lighting and that, to save money, not emergency needed repairs. Thank you.
The other point I would make about that 1.4 to 1.2 million dollar was the result of a study that was done on part of the sewage treatment plant. It was not a comprehensive study on the entire sewage treatment plant. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm Natalie Dubois. I live at 29 Alden Glen in Webster. And
What's your last name? I apologize, I didn't get your...
Dubois, it's Dubois.
Thank you.
I know we're supposed to be addressing the board, and I will. But the gentleman did mention that, we don't, us town residents don't pay village taxes. However, the village deciding to purchase this property gives, a vested interest in our town, and this puts liability for what happens on the shoulders of the village as a whole. So please also remember that that doesn't give you, just because we don't pay taxes in just because you don't pay taxes in our town for the privilege of poisoning us either, okay? So I have children, and of course, that gentleman who just went up says, our doctors say, oh, well, there's a correlation, but can it be proven? It's very difficult to prove that a health condition is correlated to one thing. It can cause severe asthma, yes. I looked up the chemical that they're using at the plant, similar to like a laundry detergent. Would you sit there in your laundry room and smell that detergent all day long? Because that's what you're subjecting the town to. Us as adults, I don't feel that we have it as bad as little children. Their lungs are still developing. My little girl just turned 1 year old, and yes, she is now on an inhaler. So I can't take her to my parents' house, who live at 610 Webster Road, which is very unfortunate during the holiday season. On Friday night at 4:37, I'm driving down 250. You pass Clem Road. I have my heat going. My daughter's with my husband, who I leave work early so I can get some things done and run to my parents' house. And thank God I left her behind, because right sucked into my heat vent is the smell. So here I was thinking, well, it's got to be, diminishing now. It's getting colder. It's winter. It's not. So you're saying people who are opposed to or for the plant are saying, oh, what's the wrong? There's no smell there. I don't smell it. Or Judy, is it Judy?
Yes.
Judy, okay. You haven't smelt it yet?
Oh, yes. Oh, no. I've been down there. I would not want to be around that odor, trust me.
Okay, do you have children?
I had children, yes.
Okay, well, when you have little babies, you don't want their
My
developing
son-
lungs.
My son had collapsed lungs, huge lung infection, so I understand everything that goes along with lung disease
Well,
in a
we've had,
child.
we've had Jerry reach
So-
out to some of the residents, and John's reached out. You have not reached out. And in a 2011 article in Democrat and Chronicle, it says that they got the sense that you were the biggest cheerleader of Webster. You call Webster a nice living community, and you want to help it become a destination by encouraging growth and attracting young families.
Yep.
Okay? You recognize there's been a lot of rancor on the board in recent months and look forward to getting beyond that and focusing again on making Webster a great place to live. You have residents that are telling you it's not a great place to live right now, Judy, and you especially are sitting up here rolling your eyes, and I wish you were mic'd a little bit better because I would love to hear the snide comments you're making over there. I see John keep turning to you, but I can't hear exactly what you're saying. I would love to get that audio. So you're sit on a board because the village trusts you to have an open mind and
I do.
listen to these views.
I do, I want more detail. I want to understand, I don't have Jake here right now to support. His grandmother is dying, so he couldn't make this meeting, so he's in hospice
Okay.
with her.
Well, I've
So
heard
I-
lots of statistics and figures, and again, you make snide comments during people's speeches, and I think that's very inconsiderate sitting on the board right here. So, anyways, I do have a doctor's appointment tomorrow for my daughter again for her chronic cough. I can't take her to see her own grandparents. It's devastating during the Christmas time. It's a big holiday for a lot of us, and so thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Fred Sam, 46 Kircher Park. I think there's a lot of people in this room that are totally misinformed from the sport. Because people on this board don't understand what they do at the sewer treatment plant. People on this board have sit here tonight, listened to folks complaining about people not doing their jobs right at the sewer treatment plant. It's not right, it's not legal, it's not this, it's not that. There's absolutely nothing they're doing that is wrong. Is there a smell? Yes. Are kids sick? Yes. %95 chances because of the weather, not because of our sewer treatment plant. People are misinformed. There's a gentleman talking or a lady talking tonight about taxes raised. When's the last time the village board raised the taxes? When's the last time the town board raised the taxes? They're talking to the wrong board about raising taxes. It's been quite a while for both of them. And the school board has nothing to do with this. People are being misinformed in this room. That's all I have to say.
Peter Elder, 59 Dunning Avenue. For the record, I am a village resident. And after the last board meeting, actually after the last town board meeting, a very kind lady, Kansas, McDonald, spoke to me briefly and provided me with a fact sheet about the composting operation at the STP. And I'm not sure why or how the process was different this year, but clearly it is. And whatever is currently happening with that compost operation needs to end, and that process should be discontinued. Obviously, you're aware that I know about the sewer treatment plant, and I also know about the composting process, not just as a board member, but also as a member of this audience in the 1990s. And it began in some controversy then, for any of you who were around then, because I remember them talking about the smells then, and also making sure the trees were there buffering the smell, and ultimately the controversy is still dogging the village. I think these people need to be heard, and I think the current process should definitely end. However, my concerns are a little different. My concerns are that the village residents are not getting a good accounting of the costs associated with shutting down this operation. What is the real number for hauling those biosolids? I have read $10,000. I've heard $50,000. After the last meeting, the mayor and I had a conversation. He said it was somewhere between the two. This is real money, and it has to be offset some other way. Also, I've heard that someone local might take the leaves and the biosolids and compost them in another location. Is that true? How much will that cost? Is there a contract that's been signed? The Khan's letter was sent in August, and yet these issues and questions remain unanswered, and they should be answered before the resolution is considered, the one you have tonight at least. Also, the resolution should protect the village from any potential liability and the village taxpayers for any potential litigation. These good people deserve to have the peace from the smell, but village residents need to be secure in their financial exposure. Also, the residents here need to know exactly what will happen in the coming months. They need to know what's going to actually happen. When this pile is moved, it may stink much more. When will this be done? Will adequate precautions be taken to ensure for the health and well-being of the people surrounding the sewer treatment plant? Will the neighbors be notified when it's done? So far, that hasn't happened a lot. So that's why I'm asking that question. Will village residents be told of the financial impact? Will the board disclose any findings or tests the town makes on the stream adjacent to the sewer treatment plant? And I'm saying the public should get this information. I ask these questions because there seems to be a disconnect between what the board knows and what is shared with the public. For instance, the resolution to discontinue the composting was not even in the electronic packet that was posted online today. So there was no way for anyone to see it. No, it's not a shrugging thing.
It should have
It's
been,
important.
because I directed the person responsible for that to make sure that happened.
Right, but ultimately, see, here's the thing. Ultimately, you're responsible. And if you couldn't, and what you should have done is had it sitting over there on the table, so when people came in, they could have seen it tonight. Okay?
All right.
Anyways, both the town residents that are here and the village residents who are not deserve to have the information, and you need to provide it. Ultimately, you do represent village residents and are elected by them. When you do discontinue the composting operation, it should be done with a plan, with foresight, and wisely. Thank you.
Village board business, and the first thing we have is a discussion regarding the composting operation at the sewage treatment plant. Before we begin the discussion, I do have a statement I would like to read. The village board has heard the concerns and pleas from our neighbors in the town of Webster who live adjacent to the village of Webster's sewage treatment plant. They have been sincere as they outlined their extreme displeasure in the odors emanating from the compost piles in the front of the plant. In that this past July, we cut down all the branches to approximately a height of 6 feet. The branches that served as a wind and sight buffer are now gone. Subsequently, the predominant west wind has no buffer, and even more neighbors are complaining about the significantly stronger smell. Those neighbors and the Kahn family have small children and grandchildren whose parents have spoken to the possible negative impact to their health that they believe our compost operation may be having on themselves and their children. 2 Sundays ago, my son and I visited Mr. and Mrs. Kahn along with their daughter Kansas for nearly 2 hours. Polly Kahn was so right when she spoke as to how close her family is. And the pictures of their family, especially all those of their grandchildren, are testament to that. Mr. Kahn has built a beautiful home for his family. They have a large pool and pond in their backyard. Mr. Kahn spoke about the woodlot that used to be in his backyard when his children were young. The woodlot is much smaller now due to the residential build-out. The Kahns have a very family-friendly home with a lot that includes a zip line that's approximately 200 yards long that my 10-year-old son, enjoyed a great deal. So I thank you for that, Mr. Kahn. The Kahns were gracious hosts while my son and I were there, and I listened with a caring ear and heart. Our composting operation is negatively impacting the Kahn family and their neighbors' quality of life. To this point, to the point that the Khan's grandchildren will not be visiting their grandparents' house at Christmas. Let me repeat that. Their grandchildren will not be coming to their house for Christmas. I've spoken to their neighbors on the phone and their neighbors in their homes. And based upon the input from the Khans, their neighbors, Supervisor Ron Nesbitt, Town Councilman Barry Dean, and members of our village board, I make the following recommendations for consideration and discussion. 1, that the Village of Webster immediately cease composting operations of our biosolids at the sewage treatment plant. 2, that we remove the compost piles currently on the front pad, which is covered with tarps. Preferably before Christmas, but it's probably not going to be, it's not going to happen before Christmas, I'll be honest with you. That we remove any and all biosolids that may be drying in the rear buildings. And number 4, that we immediately begin hauling our biosolids to a landfill unless or until we can find a more suitable, non-residential area to resume the compost process. In closing, I'll say this, and it has been echoed and talked about by several people in this room already. There is a town of Webster. There's a village of Webster. We're one community, okay? We're one Webster. Our children go to the same schools. They play on the same sports teams. Our families worship together. We celebrate together. We mourn together. This is a village operation, okay? It is. The property is owned by the village. Our employees at that plant do a very good job. But our friends and neighbors in the town of Webster, they're asking for our help. And I think it's time for us to help our neighbors. So I'll open it up to discussion by the board. Questions were asked. No. Several village residents have expressed, concern. What is this going to cost the village of Webster? Okay. I believe Ms. McDonald has asked numbers. What does the sewage treatment plant cost us a year? Well, last year it cost the village taxpayer $720,000 to operate the sewage treatment plant. We took in approximately $152,000 in income from leachate, from Xerox. We do not charge a sewage rental fee. The cost, in my conversations, I've had, just so everyone knows, I've had multiple conversations with the supervisor of the town of Webster. He empathizes with what the residents in the town are requesting, and he has stated, and rightfully so, that the town has no control over what happens at the sewage treatment plant and the composting process. The people on this board have control over what happens at that town, at the sewage treatment plant. But Mr. Nesbitt and members of his board have stated that they feel we should not do that. They do not compost our biosolids. And as far as the cost to truck the biosolids directly to the landfill, the supervisor has indicated that he would be willing to allow the village to piggyback on a contract that he has with the landfill right now, and I believe that cost is $59 per ton. So the raw number that we had as far as dry tonnage that we composted last year in biosolids is 174 tons. All right, multiply that by 59, you come up, it's almost $9,000 dry sewage, okay? It's not wet. Now, I don't know what the multiplication factor was that Jake used to come up with the 52,000. I don't know. But there is going to be a cost to the village taxpayers. Yes, there is going to be a cost. There's going to be a cost to trucking. There's also the question, what do we do with the leaves that we pick up? Also, the town supervisor has indicated to us, he's spoken to his superintendent, and he has, Mr. Nesbitt has stated, we can take our leaves from the village to the town, okay? I don't have an exact number per load of what it's going to be. I will have that next week. But the bottom line is, I don't know exactly what the costs are going to be. But I do know that a time has come for us to do something, and not something 6 months to go from now. Not to table this. No, the time has come to act, okay? There's a resolution up on the docket, okay? We can make some adjustments to it, all right? But in my opinion, we need to get this done as soon as possible. Is this going to happen? Are we going to get the sewage or the compost off the pads by Christmas? No, I'll be honest with you. And it breaks my heart that, you know, your children and other neighbors, children and grandchildren, are not going to be at their house for Christmas. Because I can't even imagine my children not being able to go to their grandparents' house, big Italian family, my wife's big Italian family, not going over there. I can't even imagine it because of something that a municipality was doing in that area. I can't. And it's my opinion, and I've done the research. I've spent hours researching composting biosolids, okay? I've done the research. I spent the time. I've spoken to the people that live in the town. I've gone in their houses. I spent 2 hours at your house. Talked to your neighbors north of you, south of you. I talked to a lady on Wall Road. And the predominant issue is the smell, okay? I wouldn't put up, I told the Kansas, I wouldn't put up with it for one day. But I have to address the fact that, you know, I don't want people having the misconception for 1 second that our employees at the sewage treatment plant are doing A, anything improper, B, illegal, all right? I know all 3 of these guys, and nobody takes more pride in the job that he does than that guy sitting right over there, okay? John Carnavelli, who's probably the most meticulous employee that I've ever known, okay? He reminds me a lot of my daughter, who is, you don't have to ask her to clean, she just does it on her own. And then that's John. He takes pride in the sewage treatment plant, and it's not his fault that he's putting things together with, you know, keeping things running with, you know, I use the analogy duct tape, but essentially that's what he's doing. And that's why we had this engineering study done at part of the plant, and why I will soon ask the board to authorize monies to have a study done, a comprehensive study done of the sewage treatment plant, so everybody in this village, all right, that pays taxes will know what the long-term needs will be. But I needed to get that out there, right? That these employees are working under a DEC permit, they're not in violation, and they're doing what they're authorized to do. But what they're authorized to do changed significantly this year. It didn't change. What changed significantly this year was we cut down all the branches that acted as a buffer. Because until this year, not one complaint has come to the level of the mayor's office. And this year, in the last 2 weeks, I've gotten probably 9 to 10 phone calls about the smell. So I'd like to hear from the other board members.
I just want to say it's very difficult, obviously, to sit on a board when you represent 5,000 people in a village, and then you have you guys from the town. You're not always going to make a decision that everyone's happy with, and that's just part of doing what we do. I'm 100% in agreement that this has to end, and it's just because it does, it's the right thing to do. But I just want to make sure, and it was stated earlier, that this whole process needs to be open and transparent to everybody. The village taxpayers need to know the costs, the test results, as well as the town. That piece is important, because if we miss that piece, I don't think we're doing anyone any good. So I fully support stopping this immediately. I was not fond of putting the Christmas date in here because it's not realistic. So to put that in there and kind of give someone hopes that even could happen, it's really not realistic. Because it's not just picking it up and moving it. There's got to be some testing done, and like I said, you got to collect data, and you got to know prices, because there is taxpayers that will end up paying the bill. Not that it changes the outcome, but they just need to know. And I think if people see your concerns and hear your stories, I think it's going to be more understanding for people to flip a bill knowing these issues. So I do support shutting this down and moving this. So.
Yeah, and I agree.
Excuse me.
I agree with Chair, that it needs to be moved. I mean, it was never supposed to be in a residential area. You know, that's not how it was planned. What I'm trying to figure out is what happened in the last approximately 2 years that everything seemed to get much worse. So that's why I'm trying to ask on dates and everything. Even like when the kids got sick, I'm trying to figure out what happened, because something different happened. This was not like that. We never had any complaints. So that's my question. So when I'm asking you for detail, it's really, really important to me so that we can figure out what is different about the plant. I've talked to Jake, I've talked to John, I've been down there, and I don't know what's different.
Judy, I don't know if you ever can link any illness or sickness to this plan. It may never happen, but it's just the right thing to do.
Well, I think it's the right thing to do too. I don't want to do it immediately until we've got all the studies done, we understand what it's going to cost. I don't want them to have to smell this any longer either. But I want to get enough detail in here so that we know what we're doing.
Agree. It's not going to change the outcome.
Money and the cost of somebody's health are different issues, but I still think we need to understand it.
Right, and just take the health issues away.
Yeah.
We have hundreds of people that are dealing with a nasty odor every day, and you don't want to live you're not going to live like that. So take the health issues away.
It's quality of life issue.
It's the right thing to do. You just got to be clear about how we do it.
Exactly, and that's my bigger thing. I really want to understand what we're doing.
I'll just for.
I think I want to say so.
Can't get a word in.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to make, we did, the Village of Webster, just so we're not misleading anybody in the audience, okay? The composting didn't move from the back, all right, where it used to be done, up to the front without a plan. So we did plan to do that, okay? It wasn't just, hey, how did all that composting get up there one day? It was planned by the village to go from the back because of, I believe, leaching into Mill Creek. I don't know all the specifics behind that, but that's how it was planned, okay? So we're all on the same page. It was planned to be put up in the front of the building in 1993. And I don't think there's anyone in this room or audience that will disagree with this statement, right? There were far, far fewer homes around the sewage treatment plant in 1993 than there is now. I'm sorry, Neil, go ahead.
That's all right. I agree with my peers here. Has to stop. It's a quality of life issue. I want my constituents in the village to know, though, that composting isn't a dead issue. We're working on a couple alternatives. We're still looking into right now where we can take it to a different site. But I agree this has to stop. Again, it's a quality of life issue, and I feel your pain.
This isn't a back and forth discussion. This is a discussion.
Unfortunately, Eric, it's not going to change the outcome.
All right. The Village of Webster will sustain an expense, all right, to change the operation that we're doing out there, okay? And I am not of the mind to say, all right, well, let's wait 6 months and figure out exactly how much it's going to cost, right down to the penny, all right? We know ballpark figures. I have spoken to one person who has.
What are they?
I explained that about 10 minutes ago as far as the trucking goes, okay? There is an option that, to possibly move the composting site to a different area, so we're looking into that. But in the meantime, the residents in the town should not have to deal with this, because one way or another, it's coming out. It's gonna stop, all right? It's just a matter of, do we find the site or don't we, okay? But I put forth that we stop immediately. That's my suggestion. That is what is up next, is a resolution to discontinue the leaf and biosolid composting. The members of this board can speak to that. It's on the table. They can vote yes or they can vote no.
I think there's got to be some changes to.
Sure, we can modify that. We'll discuss that as soon as everyone has had an opportunity to speak.
What about like a memorandum rather than the resolution until we can get all of this correct? I mean, we're not going to.
Do you have any concerns with this?
So that it isn't a resolution, it's not, until we don't have all the words correct. I mean, it's not going to be done by the 25th. It isn't going to, we need time for a study. We need to do more things. I don't know what's happened. Jake's not here.
Look, John asked that I draft a resolution that pretty much followed the statement that he read. So that's what I did. The mayor asked me to do it. I did it. Obviously, you guys, you can change it however you want to change it.
Sure.
You don't, it's subject to a vote. I don't know if it's going to pass, but you tell me how you want it changed. Tell me how you want it changed, and we can change it. If you want to make the removal of the compost piles first contingent upon some kind of studies, you can do that.
Well, I think Jerry and Al have made a suggestion with respect to, number 3 and 4, correct?
Yep.
Removal shall be done within 30 days is what I believe. I think that's a reasonable amount of time. Take out the removal shall be done as soon as possible, and preferably before December 25th. Change to the removal shall be done within 30 days of the date of the passage of the resolution. You okay with that? Mm-hmm. And the same, you guys made the same suggestion for number 4. And I would say change the word immediately to remove. The Village of Webster shall remove.
The reasonable time frame.
Remove. Shall remove and begin. The Village of Webster shall remove and begin to transport all biosolids produced by the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant to an appropriate landfill unless or until the Village of Webster can find another more suitable location in a non-residential area to resume composting of leaves and mixed biosolids within 30 days.
Can't we make it a
The
little
reasonable
longer than
timeline or
30?
That's reasonable.
Yeah, he crossed it out.
You okay with 30 days?
Or you want us to go
Can't put a reasonable timeline.
for the end of January 31st
Do you
or
think
something?
they can get it all done within 30 days?
Don't know.
Well, that's kind of like,
reasonable timeline.
All right, how about within a reasonable timeline?
And then we shoot for it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Shall remove and begin to transport all of the biosolids produced by the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant to an appropriate landfill unless or until the Village of Webster can find another more suitable location in a non-residential area to resume the composting of leaves mixed with biosolids within a reasonable timeline.
yeah, because even if we can find a spot, it's going to take time. I mean, we're looking at a couple of them, but it's still gonna take time to try and make the agreement and get it done, and I don't think we can do it in 30 days.
Wait, so you want,
Reasonable
so
doesn't
you
give
want the removal and transport of the biosolids to be done within a reasonable time?
For number 4,
Or do you want the finding the suitable non-residential area to be within the 30 days? I think if you leave it at the end, it's a little confusing as to which part of that sentence the 30 days refers to.
no, the 30 days would come out for that one, because we have to find someplace to.
Or your reasonable period of time.
Reasonable period of time for number 4.
Well, I don't think you should stick that at the end. So, are you talking about the transport of the biosolids will be
Right, number
begin
4.
within a reasonable period of time, whatever that is?
Yeah. That's too open-ended.
Yeah, but you can't commit to 30 days, man. They take long.
Well, we could say
Why don't you say
within
I would-
30.
60
what-
days for that?
What do you want to hope to accomplish before you start to haul the sludge to a landfill?
A suitable spot.
So you're gonna try a
No.
suitable spot
No, no,
before
no,
you
no,
do
no.
this.
Besides,
No.
That's
No,
two different.
That's not what I want. The intent is to stop, the intent is two-pronged. A, find a different spot, and B, not to have the biosolids stored in those buildings in back, which is exactly what's gonna happen unless we start transporting it either to a suitable spot that we've found or to the landfill. In the intermediate, until we find a suitable spot to compost,
Well,
we need to, my
first of all,
opinion is we
I
need to start
think
sending
that's
it
more
there.
of a- I think that's more of a question for the plant operator. I don't know physically how much of the sludge can sit there before you gotta take it somewhere.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna be able to find a suitable spot. Okay, we might find a suitable spot, but we can't just go take the compost and go dump it somewhere. You know, we have to get a permit to be able to dump it
there's so
somewhere.
much to do.
You know, you can't just grab it and go, say, an open lot in the village.
No.
You can't just.
So,
take it-
but the town does do that, okay? They don't store it and dry it. So obviously, it can be done,
The town
Okay.
takes theirs to landfill.
right? Which it can't, so obviously that can happen.
We probably have to communicate with the landfill.
Well, I'm sure we do, but the point being is that it's, the town does it, they've said we can piggyback on their existing contract that they have. They've said that, okay? So we know we can do that. We know tomorrow that we can start trucking it to the landfill. They know that. We know that.
Our sludge, correct.
Okay, exactly. So,
I'm talking about the material that's on our compost bed.
Well,
Right.
that's a different,
Yeah.
that's a different subject. Go back to the sludge. That's number 4 of this proposed resolution. They, you know, the plant produces sludge every day, right? And so if you don't put it on the drying beds, you gotta do something with it, right?
If we're set up at a landfill, the town of Webster, if the town allows us to piggyback on their
Right.
operation, we can run our centrifuge, and, you know, a day we might run a ton. We can. I mean, you're still we're either gonna have to, when we run the centrifuge, we're either gonna have to put it into a roll-off dumpster, like the town of Webster puts it in. And the town of Webster has a truck come in and pull that roll-off dumpster out. They run their centrifuge more than we do, but so they come in, they pull it out and take the landfill. Now, how we do it now is we use we have a small dump truck, and we'll periodically, you know, twice a week, 3 times a week, we'll run our centrifuge. When we fill our truck up, we go down to our drying bed, and we dump our sludge down there. Now, all the sludge that gets put into the drying bed, it has an under-drain system where not that it's gonna have liquid, but any liquid that it may have goes back to the under-drain system, goes to our pump station, and gets recirculated. So, I mean, as a possibility, it could be, rather than have a dumpster, we could, you know, fill our truck up, dump it in our greenhouse bed, and say monthly, you know, at the end of each month, haul out, I don't know, a couple of 10-wheelers or something like that. But still store our dried sludge.
And still, the odors are gonna emanate, and the neighbors in the area are still gonna have issues with that. And that's what we're trying to avoid, which is why one of these is mentioned, is to remove the biosolids from the drying beds.
Roll-off.
Right.
18-yard roll-off, 18-yard roll-off.
Yep.
That we would fill up, and when that fills up, it's gonna take us longer to fill it up. Like, say, the town runs their centrifuge a lot, they run it a lot and they produce a lot more. It may take us 3 weeks to fill that up, so that's gonna be sitting there. Whether if we have a building around it, or, I mean, we can have it covered.
They have 10-yard roll-offs, 20-yard roll-offs, 30-yard roll-offs, 40-yard roll-offs, 50-yard roll-offs. I mean, I can do this all day, all right? If you want to move that quicker, you use a smaller roll-off.
Okay.
Okay, so we can't move that quicker than putting a 30-yard roll-off and making that sludge sit there outside the centrifuge for 3 weeks.
Okay.
That's the point I'm trying to make. So, you know, what's a reasonable timeline that we're looking at? 30 days? Try and figure this out?
I mean, it's tight, you know, you need Jake's,
I know.
I mean,
Sure, 60.
45 days, that's fine. If you want 45 days.
Well, that's what I
But
said
I'm not,
earlier.
I think that, you know, we have a resolution on the table. You want to change the timeline a little bit? Fine, okay? We're not gonna, I've said it, and I'm gonna say it again. We will not know what the exact costs are gonna be to the village taxpayers, all right? But I know this, okay? It's gonna be $59 a ton. We're doing the right thing. There are neighbors, and this needs to be done as soon as possible, okay? Not sit on this for 6 months or another year and study everything. We know it's gonna be a cost to the taxpayers, but we're one community and we need to do this. And if you guys are more comfortable with 45 days, that's fine. I'd like to do it tomorrow.
it doesn't matter, I
All
mean,
right.
you under-promise and you over-deliver, you know what I'm saying? So it
So
doesn't,
what do you,
if you put
there's no
45
promise.
or you
There's
put
no
60
promise here.
days,
There's just
you
a
can
resolution.
you can still shoot for 30, you can shoot for whatever you want.
There's a resolution on the table.
But if you put something
okay?
on here and you don't uphold to it,
It's not,
good.
right. That's
There's
why
a
I'm
lot
saying.
more to that process that you're not
There's-
aware of, that I'm not aware of.
There's not a promise.
That
There's
the
a
man that's
resolution,
here,
okay?
not here tonight, isn't aware, you know.
Is
that isn't
aware of, exactly.
So I'm
That's
just saying,
what I'm
don't put out there something that you can't, like this 25th thing should have never been in here.
Oh,
Well,
please, never
fine.
should have been there.
That's fine, okay? What do you want for a timeline? I mean, they would like to know, I'm pretty sure.
I don't understand. That's why we.
45 days?
I think.
Well, at this point, you don't know if removal of those compost piles are subject to any kind of permit from the DEC or anything like that.
Exactly. And you may
If
take
it's-
longer than 30
That's
days to
all
even
of
get a
it.
Well, if
permit.
it's subject to a permit, I don't even know if you're gonna be able, what if you,
That's what I
how do
mean.
you get it within 45 days?
May
It's,
Well, it's not, how is it gonna be subject to a permit? Just-
I don't
just-
know.
No, just a minute. How is it gonna be subject to a permit? I'm just saying, asking the question, because I don't think we need a permit when we take the compost off the piles and spread it all over the village. That's within our current
look,
permit.
somebody raised that issue.
Yes.
I haven't called the DEC to ask them, so.
I've been reading the DEC reports. Whenever your copper or mercury or iron levels are too high, you immediately remove them from premises and a no permit is required. They just pick them up and take them to the landfill.
Okay.
So there is no permit to remove the compost.
All right.
But we don't know. Because we meet our standards, so we don't know that
You what?
we meet all the standards, we meet everything. So are we over with what she's saying on some of the minerals? I don't know. I mean, we're looking for a piece of land, we're looking for a better study before we go and do anything. I don't like doing anything without some kind of a plan, a study.
We're gonna have to move out of our houses if you don't do something. We're gonna have to move. All you gotta do is haul that stuff in a truck to the landfill. End of story. Hose down the pad and clean it off.
It is, Judy.
That's all it is.
It isn't.
You got your, everyone's in favor. We announced it's in order, we're in favor. Don't put unrealistic timelines.
Just give me the time that you guys are on.
And professional is in the field, not here.
The permits need to, we can have some like that. Okay. We'll say 45 days.
Do it in the workshop.
Contingent upon.
Oh,
any
in the workshop,
proper-
oh, yeah, well. That's not-
Contingent upon any required permits. You are?
Put that down.
Yeah, we can plan.
Eric, you're not gonna sit up here and agree with everything they do for 4 years. It's not gonna happen.
Right. It says and required permits. Hey, listen, okay? I've been very patient with you, Mr. Reynolds. I've given you 3 warnings, okay? 3, all right? I'm telling everyone in this room, all right? Listen, stop talking right now, please, okay? Your antagonistic attitude is not helping anybody. Yes, sir.
Stop it. Peter.
I'll try. I'm working on this, I'll try. So we've landed on 45 days. I'll show this to you, Don.
That's all right, great.
Well, as a practical matter, you've already stopped composting because there's no more leaves are gonna be put there, so nothing's gonna happen from
Whatever, I
now.
still want it in there
Okay, and so this one will be 45 days too,
though. Right.
okay?
And any required permits. We need to put that in there. No.
We could just say, I would say within 45 days and subject,
To required.
subject to any
Required permits.
required permits, if any. We don't even know if
We
there are
don't,
any,
I don't think there is.
if any.
Right.
Within, to be removed within 45 days. And just do the same thing.
Number 3, unless there's any additional discussion. Or number 2, the resolution to discontinue leaf and biosolid composting at the sewage treatment plant site. So the resolution of the Village of Webster Board of Trustees to discontinue leaf and biosolid composting at the sewage treatment plant site. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Webster, Monroe County, New York, held at the Community Meeting Hall, 29 South Avenue in the Village of Webster, New York, on the 22nd day of December 2015. Present were Mayor John Cahill, Trustee Jude Lancy, Trustee Al Belkane, Trustee Jerry Appolito. The following resolution was offered. Whereas since on or about 1993, the Village of Webster has composted leaves mixed with biosolids at the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant. And whereas numerous complaints and concerns have been received by neighbors living in close proximity to the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant. And whereas many of these complaints have centered around respiratory problems exhibited by certain of the neighbors and their children that may or may not be related to the village composting operation. And whereas the village composting operation has negatively impacted the quality of life of certain neighbors. Now therefore be it resolved as follows. The Village of Webster shall immediately stop composting leaves and biosolids at the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant within 45 days, contingent and subject to required permits, if any. The Village of Webster shall cause the compost piles that are currently located on concrete pads at the sewage treatment plant that are covered by tarps to be removed within 45 days and subject to any required permits, if any. 3, the Village of Webster shall also cause to be removed any and all biosolids that may be located on drying beds in the back buildings located at the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant. The removal shall be done within 45 days from the date of this resolution. Number 4. The Village of Webster shall remove and transport all of the biosolids produced by the Village of Webster sewage treatment plant to an appropriate landfill within 45 days unless or until the Village of Webster can find another more suitable location in a non-residential area to resume composting of the leads and mixed with biosolids. This is a resolution before the board. I will make a motion.
Can I ask one thing, Don? On the third whereas down, whereas many of these complaints have centered around respiratory problems exhibited by certain, are you there? Yeah. And their children, they may or may not be related? Yeah. Can we, may or may not be related?
Well, I don't think anybody has definitively said whether they are or aren't.
I'm thinking of lawsuits.
So what do you say? So you want to take that whereas the entire clause out? You can propose that?
Yeah.
It says may or may not.
I know it does.
Sure.
It says what you want in it.
Yeah, it says may or may not right in here.
That may be related?
Look around the third whereas.
Have centered around respiratory problems, certain, and their children that may. be
Or may
related.
not be related. So it's in
Or
a-
may not.
Doesn't make a difference, may or may not.
Without the other part of the
Missing
sentence
something?
that says or may not. Yeah.
You're better off just to leave it out.
Well, that's,
It doesn't make a difference.
No, it doesn't. All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Trustee Ippolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Before we move on to item number 3, I want to thank the residents of the town for allowing me to come into your homes. I want to thank you for listening to the board. I appreciate all that you've done bringing this to the attention of the village. And it is my hopes that we've shown tonight by passing this resolution, discontinuing this operation, that this board does truly believe that this community is not a town and a village. It's one community, it's one Webster. And we thank you, and it is time that we work together. So, thank you so much. And thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Khan, for, letting my son ride your zip line, because now I have to put one at my house, so, just so you know. All right. All right, thank you. Merry Christmas, and God bless you. Yeah, thanks. We'll take a 5-minute recess now. Do I have a second for that?
I'll make that motion.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. We have is resolution to approve the board workshop minutes of December 1st. And we don't have the minutes for the December, I believe, 10th village board meeting yet? Will you have them for the next board meeting, Josette?
Yes, and the 17th,
Yes.
and this one will not be.
Okay.
for 14th.
Okay. Any questions?
No.
All right. If there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion in a second to accept the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
I'll abstain, I wasn't here.
You could still vote?
You can still vote.
Did you read them?
Yeah.
Then you can still vote.
Okay, yay.
Okay, and Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next up, we have a resolution to approve the claims and warrants. Any questions?
I did not.
Nope, I didn't.
Pretty straightforward.
Entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a resolution to authorize Jake Swingley to sign the agreement with Enerpath to convert a portion of the Village Hall interior lighting for a cost of $9,100, 8 cents and $9,108.88 to be paid from RG&E street lighting rebate. We had this discussion, we got more clarification on this the last board meeting, so
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Alito?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have a resolution to authorize Josette Amalfi, the village clerk, to sign the cricket lease termination and equipment transfer. Don, I appreciate you making the adjustment to item number 4. I don't know if it was in everybody else's packet, but I'm confused as to why the Nutty Corporation agreement's in here.
Not in.
How's that? 'Cause that's not part of this, right?
It is.
Well, no,
No, it's not.
It was just another quote that Jake got to remove
Oh,
the equipment.
Right, but we're not,
If it
it's not part of the resolution to
No, it
authorize
isn't.
anybody to
No.
sign that, so I was just confused as to why it was in the packet to begin with. So I just wanted to
Because-
clarify that we're not authorizing that particular contract to be signed.
No, not anymore.
Yeah,
You guys,
yeah, that'll have to be a separate
Right.
resolution for NUD, and I believe I know I discussed with Jake, and I think, John, you were in on it, that we wanted NUD to add
Yes.
some
Verbiage.
indemnification and hold harmless language
Right.
to his proposal.
that's why I was curious to why it was in there to begin with, so we're just gonna, the authorization just for the cricket lease termination. Did you guys read the,
Yeah.
any questions?
We already discussed it. Oh,
All right, I'll entertain a motion in a second to authorize Josette to sign the cricket lease termination.
Come on.
Yeah, it's 9:40, so you can
I'll
take
make
all the
that
time you
motion.
need.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Good.
Trustee Alito? Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Oh, boy.
Trying to get you guys out of here.
And I think, although it's not subject to their approval, I think you should send the.
Copy this to Monroe County Water Authority. Right.
Yeah.
All right, next we have a resolution to authorize Jake Swingley, Superintendent of the Public Works, to sign the municipal emergency short shared services agreement between New York State DOT and the Village of Webster. essentially if there's a,
I think it's for emergency snow removal, actually, basically.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll make that motion.
Just a 1 year.
Right, just 1 year. It
Yeah.
just saves time. if there's
Does-
a natural
it-
disaster. We need to use
right.
our equipment, or they need to use ours.
I'll second.
Moves along
Good.
faster.
Yeah, it was emergency assistance,
Right.
including snow and ice control pursuant to Highway Law, Section 55.
Yeah, we're good. Thank you. Who made the motion?
Judy, I'll
I
second
did.
it.
You got that? Was that?
Trustee Lancy,
Aye.
trustee Belkane, trustee Apolito,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, next we have an authorization to approve Jake Sweenley, Will Barham, and John Carnabelli to attend the Finger Lakes Building Officials Education Conference, March 14th through the 17th, 2016, at a cost not to exceed $390 each. I believe this is for the, this is for their annual requirements for code enforcement officers. They're all certified. So this is an annual thing. They have to have X amount of hours every year to keep their certification, so. Questions? Motion and a second, please.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Trustee Apolito,
Aye.
trustee Lancy,
Aye.
trustee Belkane,
Aye.
Mayor Cahill.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Don, I think,
Next.
you have anything for us?
I do not.
Unless you,
I would say that you definitely earned your pay tonight. I appreciate it.
you didn't say nothing.
That's right.
Did you forget about the resolution discussion?
Oh, thanks, Don.
Jeez.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Josette?
Did everybody have a chance to look at the November?
Yep.
Is there anything, any questions?
I said no, I would have asked her.
Okay, where's the, I didn't see it, maybe I missed it, but I didn't see Will's, building report for the month of November in here.
It is in there?
Did I miss it?
You
Yes,
missed
you
it.
Okay.
missed it.
Aha,
I had it.
there it is.
It's just one
Okay.
page.
We're good. I guess I'll cover 104 East Main Street because I know we've been talking about that for 8 months to a year now. Will has asked for permission to enter the building to evaluate the structure, but he was denied. He's gonna be filing with the town court for an administrative warrant to inspect the building. This is at 104 East Main Street, which is next to the repair shop and basically right across from Old Fashioned Mac and Cheese. Everybody a chance to review that? Okay. We have no DPW, so we'll move into the phone. If anyone would like to call in, the number to call is 265-3772. Anybody have any announcements? The only announcement that I would have is, this is the Christmas season, and I would wish everybody a very Merry Christmas. Hope that everybody enjoys the time with their families this Christmas season. The next village workshop will be on January 5th, 2016. The next village board meeting will be January 14th, 2016. And the next village board meeting after that will be January 28th, 2016. We have no phone calls. I greatly appreciate everyone's patience and input tonight, and thank you for the Webster Police Department's attendance this evening. 4 strong.
4 strong.
Ultimate professionals, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good evening. I'll entertain a motion and a second to close the meeting at this time.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Abolito?
Aye.
Trustee Belkane?
Aye.
Trustee Lancy?
Aye.
Mayor Cahill?
Aye.
Good night. Motion passes.